when you started your journey, David, obviously you went through the Terry Wogan show, which was massive for you because you came on that show and you spoke out how you believed in and the things that you seen and the things you were educating yourself with, because you always say they ridiculed you, which I believe it's sad when you watch that interview. When you were going on that, did you know that was going to be the outcome?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. People said to me, didn't you know that would happen if you said this and said that? And I said, well, do you know I'd worked that out? Mm-hmm. But you say it anyway. But you see, there's a lot of background with that, because I was going through my life. I left school at 15. I didn't take a major exam because I went to be a professional footballer with Coventry and others. And then my career ended with rheumatoid arthritis. I played a whole year of league football with rheumatoid arthritis. That's a whole story in itself. But what that did is it developed in you, because all these things are within us, and experience brings them out. And if you don't have experience, often they don't come out. So I have this phrase, life tends to give us our greatest gifts, brilliantly disguised as our worst nightmares. Mm-hmm. Because often our worst nightmare will bring things out of us that wouldn't otherwise happen. This is why if you bring your kids up and you protect them from everything, you're doing them no favors, because you're not developing strong people who will be able to deal with life. You're developing people who are always looking to be protected. And look at what we have now. And once you have a generation or you have a population that wants to be protected and perceives itself all the time as being a victim, where does the point of power move? It moves to authority, because people look to authority to protect them from what they fear or what they feel victimized by. So what we've been developing is a population of emotionally weak people who perceive themselves in terms of victims. When you have challenges in life and you meet them, it brings something out of you. So, for instance, when my arthritis came, and I didn't know what else am I going to do at that time. I wanted to be a footballer. I wanted to be a footballer since I was a kid. And now my joints are swelling up, and they're telling me I'm going to have to pack it in. Now, I thought, I'm not packing it in. I want to give it a go. So I went to a club called Hereford United that was a league club then. And I played the whole season with rheumatoid arthritis. Every morning when we were training and warming up for training on cold English mornings, I was in agony. And I would be limping and what have you, and the players would say, oh, what's wrong now, Icke? And I would give a different excuse. Oh, I've got a bit of a pull. Oh, I think I've got a bit of a blister. But actually it was the same thing all the time. And I played the season out, and eventually it got so bad that I couldn't carry on. But it brought something out of me, this determination not to give up and not to give in. And then I decided, because when I was a kid, I was always reading newspapers, and I was very interested in journalism. So I became a journalist, and long story short, I eventually became a television presenter.
Well, very well known back then.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, I was a national television presenter in those days. And when I look at my life now, you see, and what I'm doing, my life before, which appeared to be a series of random events. Same with you. You've had your challenges in life. What has it done? It's made you the person you are. You wouldn't be the person you are now without them. Mm-hmm. And people say, well, I regret that. Well, the thing to regret is if you don't learn from the experience. That's the regret. But learning from the experience, well, you've had a gift. What are you regretting for? And so I went into journalism because I was very interested in that. And I eventually became this television presenter. And when you look at my life, as I was saying, all the different elements of it, including going into journalism and seeing the media for what it is, going into politics with the Green Party and seeing politics for what it is, well, I didn't know at the time, but they were all giving me very, very important understandings that would be useful later on. And then what happened is, this is a kind of bizarre story, but it happened. I was in the Green Party, and I was still working for the BBC as a television presenter, and both were leaving me completely cold You know, the BBC. It's not a great organisation to work for if you care about the truth and you care about you know, more than the official version of everything. And I also was looking at the Green Party politics from the inside and seeing that it was just like every other party. And so what do I do with my life now? Because I can't go on with either of these. And what happened was a very strange thing happened, because in the early part of, what would it be, 1989, I started having this feeling that when I was in a room alone, I wasn't alone. And it's like this. It's like there was an atmosphere there. There's something there. And through 1989, this got more and more and more powerful, to the point where in early 1990, I was working for the BBC, and I was staying at a hotel called the Kensington Hilton, just down from the BBC headquarters. And I'm sitting on the side of the bed, and in this apparently empty room, and there was such a sense of a presence there that I said into the room, you know, if there's something there, would you please contact me, because you'll drive me up the wall. Few days later, I'm on the seafront with my son Gareth, little boy then, in Ryde, where I live on the Isle of Wight, and I go into this newsagent shop where Gaz was looking at one of the books, and I said to him, "Come on, Gaz, we'll go and get some lunch in the town." And as I said it, it was like the atmosphere changed, like the energetic field around me changed. And all I heard, it wasn't a voice, it was a very strong thought form. It said, "Go and look at the books on the far side." And I'm standing there thinking, you know,
do not shut yourself.
Yeah. No, basically, what the... And so I start walking across to the books in a daze, thinking, what is happening? And I knew this bookshop. The books it sold were for, you know, the tourists that come to the Isle of Wight. They were basically Mills and Boon and you know, perfectly formed English roses and having relationships with perfectly formed, you know, uniformed soldiers and all this stuff. So I'm thinking, what am I going over here for? But right in the middle of these books was one called Mind to Mind by a woman called Betty Shine. A picture was on the front. It was different to the others, so I picked it up and I turned it over and I read the blurb. And she was a psychic. An English psychic, and she was telling her life story. So I bought the book, read it in 24 hours, found it very interesting, contacted her because I wanted to go and see if she would pick up what the hell was happening around me for the last year. And so I went. I told her nothing. What I told her was, because she did this hands-on healing as well, which is just an exchange of energy. You know, it's not mumbo-jumbo, it's an exchange of energy.
Icke.
Yes, it's just an exchange of energy. That's all it is. But anyway, I told her that because I said, I've got arthritis. Maybe it will help. Because I didn't want to give anything away what was happening to me. So I'm sitting on this bench, this medical type bench in her front room. And, you know, she's chatting away. And she's doing the whole, you know, hands-on healing just next to my left knee. And suddenly the atmosphere changed again. And I felt like a spider's web on my face. Now, what hit me was, in her book, she said, when other levels of reality are trying to lock into you, you sometimes feel like a spider's web on your face. Well, I know what that was now. It's electromagnetic energy. You know when you're in a crowd, a football crowd of great emotional excitement, you feel like a charge of energy. Mm-hmm. The hair stands up on your neck, you know. That's electromagnetic. They're electromagnetic fields. So that's what I was feeling. But it did feel like a spider's web on my face. And I said nothing to Betty, but I'm thinking, what the hell? And then about 10 or 15 seconds later, she reels her head back and she said, my God, this is powerful. I've got to close my eyes for this one. And my bum's for going further down the... What have you got yourself into here, Icke? And she starts telling me in March 1990... that I'm going to go out on a world stage and reveal great secrets. I would face enormous opposition, but they, whatever that is, would always be there to protect me. And that there was a shadow over the world, and there was a story that needed to be told, that humanity was going to was going to go through a phase of waking up and coming out of basically its coma, which is programming, and that I was going to go out and do that. One man cannot change the world, but one man can communicate the message that can change the world, was one of the things she said. And I'm sitting there, I'm a television presenter for the BBC, I'm a national spokesman for the Green Party, and I'm thinking, what are you talking about? and so I then leave her and get on a train. She lived near Hassocks in Sussex, or in Hassocks actually, and then I drove up or went up in the train to present a television program. But from that moment on, one of the things that was said that she said, because she said the first thing she said is she had no idea about this interaction in the Kensington Hilton. She's saying that they're telling me they know you wanted them to contact you, but the time wasn't right. And you know, now you've been brought here to be contacted. And they said, they're saying that you're going to be led to knowledge, and at other times, knowledge will be put into your mind. Oh, all right, okay, what? Mm-hmm. So anyway, after that...
See, at that time, David, did you think she was maybe crazy because you didn't understand that? Or was you an open book? Because when you speak out about stuff like that, people go, well, he's maybe crazy. But again, it's judging people, and everybody's in their own different paths.
Yeah, I mean, what I've been like, mate, all my life is I've never dismissed things that I can't know absolutely are not true. I have this policy. I put things on the back burner and I see what comes. And if more information comes to support it, there comes a point where there's so much information supporting that it crosses the line, and you start to say, okay, I accept this is what's happening. But I don't just dismiss things, and never have, on the basis that they're different, just being the way I've always been.
Was that the start of your journey then, going to this woman and everything, like awakening, a spiritual awakening?
Yes, it was. And one of the things was that, it was going to be tough. And so when I left her house and got on with life, very, very quickly, synchronicity, coincidences started to occur, where I'd meet people, come across information, come across books, come across documents, whatever, that were starting to hand me puzzle pieces. And I started to realize, as it built up and it built up and it built up, that actually the world was not like I thought it was. Well, not like I thought it was. I didn't really have a view on that.
Do you think you were just brainwashed it and didn't really understand?
I never did believe that politicians around the world. I always felt there was something else, but you didn't know what it was. Now I was beginning to understand what it was and how it works. Yeah. And another thing that happened is that I would get just a knowing that this is how, I think this is what's going on here. And then what would follow would be names, dates, places, hard factual information that would support that view, which kind of connects with, we will put knowledge into his mind. And this has gone on now for 30 years, and it's gone through different phases of information. And it's taken me down an extraordinary road of uncovering the world as it is, behind the facade of what we're told it is. And of course, it's taken me into realms of enormous ridicule and enormous abuse. But we come back to the greatest gift often that you are ever given is your worst nightmare, or what appears to be. So if we go back to the Wogan show, because what happened eventually is I went on the Wogan show and talked about what was happening to me. And at that time, I was right in that period of the Wogan show, it was a period of about 3 months, I was going through an enormous transformation of
that you didn't
perception
understand.
That I didn't understand. No, because this is what happened. Just very, very, very briefly, is that I suddenly got this feeling I needed to go to Peru. I didn't know why. I'd never been there. I watched them play in the World Cup a few times, but I didn't know anything about it. And long story short, I ended up in Peru, and a series of enormously amazing things happened to me. And it culminated at a place called Siyustani, which is near a place called Puno, near Lake Titicaca, highest navigable lake in the world, they say, about 13,000 feet. And I ended up, a series of synchronicities again, at this so-called Inca site called Siyustani, which is old Inca ruins on a hill, and there's a lake and mountains right out in the middle of nowhere. And I went and I looked around it, and then I'd hired this taxi, and this guide came with me, and we're driving away from Siyustani, and I'm just daydreaming, which I do all the time, daydreaming out the window, sort of mind wandering, and I'm looking at this hill as we're coming towards it, and as I looked at this hill, all I could hear in my head was "Come to me, come to me, come to me." You know, and I'm thinking, you know, I was introducing the snooker not long ago, actually, and now this frickin' hill's talking to me. You know? It's like, yeah, it's what's going on. Steve Davis, Jimmy White, all is forgiven. And so I asked the guy to stop. I said, I won't be a minute, I'm going up that hill. And I walked up the hill, and I didn't know where I was going or why. And there's all these kind of stones. It's kind of a kind of circle like of stones. And I walked into the middle, and it's beautiful. And there's not a cloud in the sky. It's a pure blue Peruvian sky, piercing sun, red nose to prove it. And I stood there, and what happened to me then happened to me. I cover this bit in the news shop in Ride, where I'm standing there, and suddenly I feel like my feet are being pulled to the ground, and like magnetically, and I'm feeling like a drill in the top of my head, and the atmosphere changed again. Only this was much more powerful than the news shop, and I heard this again very strong thought form go through my mind, which said, first of all, they'll be talking about this 100 years from now. What? And then, which seemed absolutely crazy given the sky and the sun, and it will be over when you feel the rain, right? And then what happened is my arms went out like that without me making any decision to do that. And then this energy got more and more powerful. And in the end, my body's shaking. And what was happening, it's like when you're driving a car and you can't remember the last mile. Your subconscious has been driving the car, thank goodness. I kept coming back to some kind of consciousness and then going back somewhere else. And as I came back to consciousness at one point, my conscious mind, I noticed that over the far distant mountains, there was a light grey mist. And I'm watching it, and it's getting darker, and it's getting darker faster. And I think, it's frickin' raining. And then over not very long, the whole thing took maybe, I don't know, an hour, 45 minutes, an hour. This storm came out of the, I mean, you couldn't make it up. If you put this on a movie, they'd say, oh, come on, it happened. This storm is coming towards me. And you know, weather people talk about a front.
Yeah.
Well, this is a front. It's a straight bloody line. I'm looking up. It's literally out of some crazy movie. And it's stair rod rain. It's not just raining, it's stair rod rain, and it's coming towards me. And I'm standing there, and I'm seeing this wall of water coming towards me. It's like something out of bloody Moses. And the frickin' Red Sea. And by this time, my body's shaking like crazy with this energy coming through me. And then the water hit me. I mean, I'm immediately drenched because it's stair rod rain. And bang, the energy stopped. And I staggered forward like Bambi because my legs were gone. And there was energy pouring out my feet and pouring out my hands. And it's still pouring out of my feet. I couldn't sleep that night because of it. And something changed. People could imagine, you lived your life in a bubble, literally a bubble of information, a bubble of perception, and someone's come along without any warning and popped the bloody thing. And suddenly, everything that was outside the bubble was pouring in. So my mind is absolutely awash with information, concepts, insights. What the hell's going on? It was just a chaotic mass of information and thought and everything. And in that period, it lasted about 3 months. If you'd have asked me my name, I'd have checked. And it was in that period, in my turquoise shell suit, that I went on to the Wogan show, and everything that happened, and after about 3 months, after all the ridicule and all the newspapers and all that stuff, basically, you know when you press too many keys on a computer and the computer freezes, says I can't process this. Well, that was me. There was so much information pouring into my conscious mind as a result of that experience in Peru. I couldn't process it. I mean, you basically froze. What happened after 3 months is it unfroze. And now I'm the old David again, but I ain't.
Just more.
I'm seeing the world in a completely different way. As they say when you read a newspaper, the truth is in the white bits, not the words, the bits in between. You know, and so I was seeing things and connections that I couldn't see before.
Did you ever question yourself there, David, and think, am I losing my mind? Do I need to go and get help? Or did you just feel right for you? Did you understand it a bit more?
Well, it felt right to me. I would say I completely understood it then. It felt right to me. And I did what I always do, like I've just mentioned earlier. I thought, okay, I'm going with this, and we're going to see where it's going to go. And I didn't know where it was going, but I'm going to go with this and see where it goes. And people were coming up to me after that, unfreezing, and they were saying, they thought you'd got mad. You're the same Dave we used to know, but I wasn't. I appeared to be, but I wasn't. I was seeing the world in a completely different way. And of course, in a world which is overwhelmingly programmed to see the world in a certain way, it's what happens through the education system and the media and peer pressure. It's very, very narrow band of sense of the possible, sense of what is. When you start talking about things that are different to that, then immediately the reaction is you're crazy or you're dangerous, or in my case, you're both. But what followed, of course, was mass ridicule as a result of the Wogan show. And people said, it must have been horrible. Well, it was, but it was the greatest gift I ever have been given, because it set me free of the prison that most people live in, which is the fear of what other people think. Mm-hmm.